This is season 8, episode 18. I'm struggling. 325. I wanted to say this is season 18, episode 8. That's not right. It's season 8, episode 18, 325.
Still 325 episodes.
I wanted another 8 in there. I wanted to say season 8, episode 18, number 888, 328, something, something 8, 789.
You
Now
need
I'm
it.
hungry.
I'm hungry. Ah.
What's going on, man?
Not much. I think I want to take a cupful of our on ramp and keep sipping at it. You like that metaphor?
I do like that.
That's not bad, eh? I want to put out there to anyone that finds this feed, a challenge of practice of protecting your quiet time at work. I really like the on-ramp we had talking about, like, kind of being at the end of the hall, being able to close a door, being able to have a quiet space that is both connected but intentionally detached, like to be connected and detached at the same time, so that there's space there between the noise and your work. And I like you were sharing with me photos, video media of your new workspace. And it reminded me of how purposefully I have constructed my workspace. I am on the outer edge of my school. So it got me thinking about when I do set out on a voyage from my classroom to the main office or our department office, or even to check in on my students, I have to, there's some logistics to it. And there's a value assessment. Do I really want to do this one thing right now? That's because I'll get this idea in my head. So I am at heart a show up at your door kind of a guy. I'll send emails, but I tend to send the emails if I don't have physical access. If I have physical access, I'm going to actually carry with me my journal, my laptop, my clutch of pens, and whatever paperwork I need. And I'll just go walking and I'll kind of do these rounds thing and check in with people. And then I'll come back foraging out on the frontier, reset up my encampment in my classroom and get going. So leaving that room, I try to be really overly dad detailed about it. I'm going on a long weekend, right? Packing the car kind of a thing. Because I take with me what I need and I make sure that I only take what I need, and that I map out my path. Okay, when I get down to the crossroads, am I going to go up to the 4th floor and then cross the 4th floor and come back down so I can hit guidance, and then I can circle left, go south down to the school. I can refill my coffee and my water bottle, come all the way back around and go back to my class, just to protect that detached space that I can work in. I love it when people show up in my room. It's awesome. But as I told you, I'm also getting used to, like, okay, thanks for the meeting, but you have to leave now because I have things to do. So yeah, I think I'm gonna be bringing that back into next week. This idea of maintaining the peace, maintaining the sort of like that work environment at a kind of like a rumble level that's useful to me. In my class, I've talked a lot about being peaceful in the classroom. And before Christmas, we actually did a peace week where we intentionally, we didn't have the lights on. We reduced our actual tech use, reduced our voices, increased our side-by-side time. So you want to talk to someone that's not across the room. There are a bunch of things that we did to small group lessons, more chalkboard work, less LCD projector. And what was really kind of cool is I use this, I tell the students to stay pink. And if you followed ever my teacher Instagram, I have written on the outside of my door, enter pinkly. And it's a reference to the work that I've done with the kids around colors of sound. So for me, one of my preferred sound colors is pink noise. White noise is okay. I prefer pink noise. And I've taught them about this and the calming effect it can have. So I just took that and used that as kind of a mantra to say, we're going to operate in a pink way, in a calm way. So everything that I can do to kind of maintain that pink space in my classroom, including disrupting my own calm and my own kind of like focus, I try to do. So I love it. When you were showing me those things, I thought, man, that's awesome because it feels like a place that you can root. You can now settle and start growing from there. And I would say one of the things that has fundamentally allowed me to feel a little bit more pink in my own space is this idea that I do have a classroom space that I can use. Now, I understand, as do you, I'm sure, any classroom you have is temporary. It's only as permanent as you can either whine, complain, structure, or demand. But ultimately, an administration can say, we need that room now. But I'm going to maximize that. So for now, I'm doing everything. I'm not doing everything in my power to keep it from being taken from me. I'm doing everything in my power to optimize, enrich, and enjoy having that space. So that if it is gone, I might mourn for a little bit, but I've created things that I can rebuild them somewhere else if I need to. So I love this, that detached workspace, the video that you shared. It makes me deeply appreciate the space that I've built for myself to get good work done. And in effect, I would say that improves student success. Because if I can be optimized more often, that means I am right there with what the kids need me to be. So I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you that you've landed there.
Thanks. So, yeah, for people who don't know, I'm I'm moving into a new space, a new workspace, not classroom, but like a desk space. But it has everything I need to do my work, right? There's a table, there's a chair, there's a computer, there's a telephone. Um, so because part of my job is meeting with students often. So now I have a space where I can meet with them, and there is some privacy, meaning they're not in a room with 10 other people talking about their IEP and stuff from home or what they're experiencing at school. It's it's the perfect space. I've told you this, where when I'm meeting with the kid, the door's open and the kid is sitting in front of the door. So anybody walking in the hall looks, they see the door open, they see a kid, right? So it's like it's perfect for me that way. Um, and if I need to make a call, I there's a phone right there. It's good. It's what is required, in my opinion, for what I do. Now, somebody above me could say, "No, you don't need that. That's not required." Okay, well, they're the one with the authority to tell me where to go and what to do, so they could do that. But me and the other IEP monitor have have expressed an interest to the team. Um, we've expressed an interest. Expressed a desire to have a space to do these mega interviews um, with kids, and we want to do it in a semi-private space because now that we've gone through it once, we both have debriefed and we've both felt bad that we've had students in situations where we feel now that maybe their dignity was not a priority. Um, where we were asking questions and expected a response because we were in a robot mode of trying to get our job done, and maybe not fully recognize that the student was in a environment, in a situation where answering the question, I don't know, might help them feel embarrassed or feel like they're really uncomfortable. Um, and again, this is all looking back, right? Obviously, when we're meeting with kids, we're friendly and stuff. And there have been times where I've asked kids questions and they're like, I prefer not to answer. I'm like, no problem. Like, I'm not going to press you. Um, and now I know that they weren't interested because there were other ears around and they weren't, even though I felt we were off on the side enough to talk, they didn't feel that way. And that's fine. And the interview had to be done, right? So it wasn't a situation where I could be like, oh, we don't need to talk. We needed to talk. So now we have a space. We've been given the green light that this space will be ours to use. And we're both very excited at the possibility of having a phone to use anytime, having computers to use anytime, having a space where, my partner can say to me, hey, I need to interview some kids today. I'm like, no problem. I'll just shift here or there. Like, it's before we were both kind of like scouting out places. We don't need to scout anymore. Anyway, all that to say, I like to have my time to do certain things. So my e-learning time, for example, I have a period that every day has been given to me to do my e-learning stuff. And I take that seriously. I do flex it, and I've told anybody who's talked to me about my job knows that I do appreciate the e-learning. I enjoy the e-learning class. I like how it operates. I like facilitating a class that way. So there's a bonus. The other part of that is that it provides me with some time to flex. So if a vice principal says to me, there's a parent, they're coming in at 1 o'clock or 1:30 for a meeting, can you make it? We'd really like to have you there. And I want to be there. I can say, yeah, I'll be there. And I'm not getting pulled out of class. I'm getting pulled out of my e-learning time. But I think that that's great that I can do that. But there are other days where I say to people, I'm gone and you're not going to see me because this is where I'm going to be. But I'm not coming out of there because I have to mark a bunch of stuff. Or I need to do, I do this thing on Fridays called the Friday follow up where I record a video of me talking to the class. And it's one of my ways that I help kind of humanize myself and make myself try to build a relationship with these kids. It's not just always email or audio, it's also video. So it's like on Fridays, unless the place is burning down, I need my e-learning time to do my Friday follow-up. Now people can say, well, can't you do it at home? Can't you do I do a lot from home. Just because it's the weekend doesn't mean I don't do any work. I work from home. I'll work on my IEPs this weekend. I'll work on my e-learning course this weekend. But if I'm at work, I'd like to do work at work. And I'd like to do it during the time that's been given to me to do the work. So I like having a space where I can just work. Because when I'm in student success, I'm all in. Everything else that I'd like to do on the side is on the side. And there have been days, and me and the other monitor have told our team this because they've said, well, just do it when you're in student success. We're like, we can't. It gets so busy in here. So many kids are asking for so many different things. It's their time. It's not my time to do other things. It's their time. And I want to honor that so that when I'm in that space, I'm giving everything I can to that space. Because when I'm not in that space, you're not getting any more from me unless there's some type of situation. When I'm allowed to leave, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go have my lunch. Or here's there's a female esports thing going on soon in my district, and my school's involved. And so I want to be involved because I'm part of the the esports ecosystem, and that was happening at lunch. So somebody was like, "Can I talk to you?" I'm like, "No, today at lunch, I'm leaving. I got to go to room 302 because there's an esports thing, and I'm the esports coach in this school, so I want to be there." And they're kind of looking at me. I'm like, "No, it's my lunch." Normally, I'd be like, "Yeah, we can talk anytime." Today, no. Well, what about, okay, after lunch, I'm going to do my Friday follow up. As soon as that's done, I will call you. So it's like, some people just expect you to do what they want you to do when they want you to do it. And it's like, no, this is my schedule. Today, I'm leaning on my lunch is my lunch. And then after my lunch, I'm doing this. Now, I'm not usually that anal, right? I'm not like that every single day. But on this particular day, you're banging me with esports. I'm the friggin' esports coach. So I want to be present for esports stuff. I run an e-learning course that most people think is a joke. I don't think it's a joke. I take it seriously. Um, and I need to build the culture of my class. And this is part of the way I do it. So it's like, I get what you're saying. I also get there's this notion, maybe Gary. Oh, good morning, Gary and Rochelle. I'll get to that in a
Good
second,
morning.
but
Good morning.
maybe Gary can jump in on this. That I get being in special education and student success, the importance of being visible, being around. We're we're seen as a different breed of teacher in some way, that we're always kind of available. I get that. And I know you're saying no. I would say I meet that expectation 70% of the time. I reserve the other 30% for when I need my prep time for whatever, and I need my lunch time, and I need my e-learning time. So I flex. Some people are 95% in that space all the time, and then their 5% is whatever, and that's how they do it. And again, the we'll see what happens. If somebody doesn't like how I operate, then I won't be in this department. It just depends on, do they see me, how they see me. I think I'm doing great in the department. I think I get along with people, they get along with me. I think I'm effective at my job. But again, unless there's something happening behind closed doors where people are like, you got to get Roland out of here. This isn't, Spec Ed is not the place for him. I don't know if that's happening or not. Then I'm doing okay. And I need my time to do the other things that I'm given the time for. I know Gary's different. He's the program head. Maybe it's not different. I don't know. But I think Gary probably lives in student success all day long. Actually, his desk is right there. So he is there. One more thing before, I've been talking forever and I'm going to shut up in a second, but I want to say, because Rochelle's here, when I was at Rochelle's school, the way I had my desk and my computer positioned, at lunchtime, I would turn my lights off and I would sit at my computer and I'd work, and people would come to the door, they'd look in the window and they wouldn't see me and they'd walk away, or they'd open the door and they'd look and they wouldn't see me, they close the door and they leave. But I was literally right there, but I was behind a computer screen so I could see them, but they couldn't see me. And it was friggin' epic because they wanted to disturb me so many times when I just had to get some planning done, had to get some work done. I was literally and then they'd say after, where were you? I was looking all over the place. I was in my classroom. No, you weren't. Yes, I was. So that was awesome. That was a cool thing about that class that I had. Good bon matin, Rochelle. Welcome.
Bon matin.
Gary, good morning, my friend. And Rochelle was just saying she's interested in the color of noise.
Do it, Rochelle. Look it up. Look it up. It's transformational. I will say just a little side journey here. One of the, in the spec ed world, I've come across IEPs that say student uses a music to help focus them or to block out externals, whatever, for focus. On my end, I look at that highly technically, and it's not music. If we're going to do scientific here, you have to be really, 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 really shrewd in what you let kids put into their ears as a audio tool. Anything that's familiar, that has a lyric base to it, will by nature incite an emotional state. And it's, if they know the song, whatever. And I find that if we're looking at purposefully writing an accommodation for students to use sound canceling headphones or to listen to music or to have a preferred video that they get to play, for a very small percentage of the students, I'm going in my opinion here, a very small percentage of students that are involved in student services, special education, whatever it's called in any particular jurisdiction, there's a very small percentage that need to have some sort of sensory modulating tool like headphones or earbuds or something like that. They need to have something. And sometimes that sensory can also be tactile. Sometimes people need a chewy. Sometimes people need do you know what I mean when I say a chewy, Chids? Do you know what that is? Yeah. So like some sort of a synthetic but not toxic thing for them to kind of gnaw on. Sometimes they need something to have a physical. Sometimes they need pressure. Sometimes they need temperature. All these sensory sort of things. So listening to something is another sensory tool that allows the student to kind of manage their day, manage their emotion, whatever. The problem here, though, is that often it's put into an accommodation without much prescriptive understanding, I think, and without it being a tactic. Ultimately, whatever an accommodation is, it kind of has to fall into some pretty specific categories. Does it make the kid feel more productive? Or is the kid, so there's a feeling of productivity, and then there's the actuality. Are they more productive when they have this accommodation? Then there's efficacy. Are they being productive at a higher level? And then there's the emotional calmness, wellness element. Does it also improve that? So they're able to kind of self-reg. So there's the self-reg, there's the efficiency, and there's the productivity. So when I look at any accommodation, not only am I looking at environmental assessment and instructional categories, I'm also looking at which almost like affective category does it also tap into. And I like to tell teachers this, and I observe and I observe and I observe, and I know the students that I work with, what works for them, what they think works for them, and what will actually work outside of my congregated classroom. So when they go to integration. So pink noise was a part of a study, and I continue to do this with the students, where I tell them you need to have your work playlist. They're like, what are you talking about? And I actually have 5 different tracks that I asked them to have. I said one that makes you feel creative, one that makes you feel pumped up, one that makes you feel calm, one that you have for math, one that you have for literacy. Sorry, there's 6. And then you can have one random one, just a song you kind of like. So you're always kind of flipping through that random one. It's the flavor of the day. So when I go to a teacher and I say they can use music or sound as a supportive accommodation, I say flat out, it's not on their phone. They have a YouTube playlist that they've curated themselves. They're going to use that. Now, for some students, they like the sound colors, and there's a whole range of them. And it has to do with the actual, the hertz level of it. So it's sort of like, sometimes it's a pitch thing. Sometimes it's just the actual texture of the sound. And pink noise, when I look it up, it tracks in with my preferred soundscape, if I think of the natural world, of sort of rain, kind of wind. That's what it triggers. And I find those sounds calming. I can actually get deep work done. So pink noise for me is actually my productivity track. I would put that on in my noise canceling headphones, and I come up 30 minutes later. I'm like, whoa, where am I? And I've actually got into that zone. I've gotten into flow. So that's the pink noise thing. And I think that there's a really cool space there to talk about accommodations in that way from a sensory perspective, even in your typical neurodivergent classroom where maybe you're just doing a learning strategy. So the kids have an LD, and there's other complexities, but I sometimes look at LD as the entry point, and then there's a whole bunch of other things that can kind of be connected to an LD. So someone just isn't good at reading, if that's their, there's a dyslexia element to it. Those learning strategies classrooms, I think it's good to do this work because it answers that question that comes up later, is like, or that challenge of like, well, in my class, all they do is listen, watch videos. Well, if you've done the work as a CERT, special education resource teacher, or student services person, to teach the kids about a better way to stay focused and have them understand that that's what they have to be: focused, productive, and feel good, then you have a way better conversation. You have fewer kids that are, I do believe there's kids that it's not just about them listening to rap music all day. They're actually using a tool, but there's a better way to use it. So that's the pink noise spiel. I encourage all teachers to look into this because you can even have it playing in the background. Now, understand, pink noise is not for everybody. Some people prefer white noise. Some people prefer brown noise. There's a bunch of different colors there. And there's free generators online. Super, super simple. Rochelle, if you want me to share some of mine with you, happy to share the ones that I use. 2 more quick things. I actually think that I disagree entirely with your statement entirely that the spec ed department needs to be there and on call like that. I fundamentally, pedagogically, I refute that on the singular basis that, in my experience, that assumption has led to burnt out, overworked, overtaxed certs that staff have gotten used to using them as a crutch in order to build relationships with their students. So that Chids, get them to Chids. He can deal. Get him to Chids. There's a magic there. Get him to Chids. We know that this kid only works with Chids. There's something useful to that, but when it becomes so monolithic, you're just asking to burn out certs. So I believe that certs are in a very very cool position to help a school understand how to organize themselves. Because I would say that a good CERT is a learning strategist. Not only that, I would say a good CERT is also an organizational master. I would also say that a good CERT operates a little bit like a Maria Kondo, and they know what is necessary and they know what is not necessary. You encounter any team that's been trained in NCVI and they're dealing with an escalation in the hallway, any group, you watch that group operate and they are efficient. They have two people supporting the kid. They have one person working the hall. They have another person that's doing communications and maybe they're data tracking as well. You watch how that works. And I always believe that there's a really cool way that, certs as consultants within a school to help teachers, to help admin, to help parents, and help the students understand. And I'm not increasing workload here. I'm actually saying how you can actually improve a support system within a school that actually makes your search job better. And they can ascend and actually get better at their job too. But if they are always in service to the students and always available, that doesn't happen. Show me a school that is operating like that as a primary driver for their special education resource department, and I will show you a school where you have burnout, you have teachers that are getting injured, and you have a lack of creativity because there's no time to kind of figure out how I'm going to, do your e-learning course. There's a zero-sum element to it. So that's been my experience. I'm not going too dark on it. I'm always open to sort of experience something else. But that particular statement of being open for the students all day long, no. Because even I would just say even these some of these same students that are constantly knock, their easy access to you is actually part of what they need to develop a better system to work on. And the longer they spend with you, the less likely they are to develop any sort of generalization of skill or personalized version where they can actually do that skill and not be with you. Last thing I'll say on this. So I have my kids with me 3 periods a day. So that means I have 3 periods to make them successful in the 1 period that they're away from me. I can't expect for them to be, and I've said this about learning strategies in the past. Anybody that's teaching a learning strategies class, that mark should be the lowest mark out of the 3 other courses that the kid is taking. If the learning strategies mark, and I'm taking this as just one benchmark of success, but if a kid is rocking 80% in learning strategies, hell, if they're getting 60% in their learning strategies class, they're demonstrating success at either 60% of the expectations or all the expectations at 60%, and they're getting 40s in their other 3 classes, then that learning strategies teacher, that student service really has to question what they're doing. I want the learning strategies mark to be the lowest and to see the kids blossoming in their 3 other courses. I've always operated that way. And I feel as long as I'm doing it, that I'm learning how to get these fledglings to kind of do their shit on their own. And sometimes I look at staff the same way. That's my TED Talk.
We got to call it something else. I don't like calling it a TED Talk anymore.
SPED. That's my SPED talk.
SPED Talk. We have to go. But before we go, I just want to say that maybe my perspective of how things run at my school is not accurate.
No, it is. I entirely believe you, bro. I've walked into these places. I've walked in these places where I've seen, and I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, it was the day. It was the day. And I like what's asking, like, oh, this kid walked in the office and then this kid ran down the hall. And then this administrator called me to a meeting. And then this teacher said, can you come to the classroom and work with us? I'm like, man, you got to start putting up some boundaries here. You got to put up the boundaries. You have to start where we started on the on-ramp. You have to be intentional with protecting your professional practice. And it doesn't include 24/7 access to you. And as practitioners, we have to be comfortable with that we are not the one. And because we are not the one, we're not losing by saying no to people. We're actually making ourselves a better one by giving ourselves some downtime, some sustenance. Go take a crap. Like there's these things that if we're saying that we're beholden to the whole school in all of our extra time, that we're taking our work home with us. And we have somebody say to us, well, you can do this at home, can't you? No. The beginning answer to that is I could. The second answer to that is no. The third answer to that is pushing back and saying, I used to do that, but now I'm better. I aim to get my work done during class time. And I've stopped. So one of the practices that I've included in order to reinforce this for me is just flat out saying I'm not available. And I offer no alternative times. I'll do that in email. I'll say that to a person. I had that happen this week. There's a family that's trying to set up there's not a formal term for it, but it's like where they want me to sit in on a meeting with their medical team. And so for the kids, so there's a bunch of different medical practitioners. So there's third party signups that have to kind of go all effective there. They're having a virtual meeting, and they've changed the meeting a couple times. And then the whole group on that end has actually landed on a date and a time in the future after cancel. And I just messaged them. I said, I'm not available. And I left it at that. Is the meeting important? Could be. Me being there, not sure. I was sort of a willing participant. The content is something that could be done away from the meeting because I'm in constant contact with the parent anyways. What I feel is it's more for the medical team to be able to kind of like push me and ask me things, which I'm good for. But again, it's not, I said I'm not available. And I'll wait for them to reach out again. But I'm being a little bit more, here's my line. And I don't have to tell you what's going on behind the closed door. And you don't need a window to check on me. Are you doing work? And I don't have to give you, a rain check, as in come back and see me in 5 minutes, and I will give you the thing that you're begging or asking or demanding of me now. I just say no. And my days have been just fine.
Awesome.
Well,
On that note, we're going to shut things down for today. So thanks for your time, Chris, and thanks for everybody for joining us. And Rochelle and Gary, appreciate you commenting. That's it for the Decoder podcast today. This was season 8, episode 18, number 325. Peace.
Peace, bro.